Legislative acts taken by British officials without lawful authority or with corrupt intent were void ab initio and treated as if they never occurred during colonial times. The acts of British officials only carried the force of law when performed within the bounds of English law, and when British officials acted without legal authorization, they were driven solely by personal will and power. This legal framework is essential to understanding the unlawful origin of slavery in the British American colonies and why colonial slave codes and Negro laws were void ab initio before the Declaration of Independence in July 1776. I'd ask that you consider how Virginia's colonial officials overreached their legislative authority by enacting a slave code and the Negro law of partus sequitur ventrum in the early 1660s. During this time, colonial Virginia was a financially struggling settlement, 3,000 miles from England. In response, Virginia's House of Burgesses, the legislative assembly in the colony, dominated by wealthy planters and merchants, passed a slave code despite lacking the authority to do so under English law in 1661. The passing of this slave code violated Virginia's colonial charter, as Virginia's colonial legislature was bicameral and the assembly was just the lower house. Moreover, the approval from the British monarch or parliament was required to enact a valid law in colonial Virginia. Still, the assembly was successful as Virginia's royal governor, William Berkeley, was out of the country and did not veto this legislation. However, this slave code was void ab initio by English law. The following year, in 1662, the House of Burgesses sought to establish a hereditary system of slavery. They proposed a hereditary slave code to create a self-replenishing labor force of workers for their fields by enslaving people of African ancestry, by self-declaring a class of colonial women as slaves and declaring their offspring born in the colony slaves at birth, thereby reversing English common law. Though they knew such actions exceeded their legislative authority and contravened English law, Governor Berkeley agreed to the scheme, prioritizing personal enrichment over legal obligations. Despite its unlawful foundation, the hereditary slave code, partus sequitur ventrum, status follows the mother, was implemented in the colony of Virginia. This set a precedent that the other 12 colonies followed, enacting similar laws. Over time, these hereditary slave codes entrenched slavery across the colonies and beyond. Parliament eventually reasserted its authority with the American Colonies Act of 1766. This legislation rendered all colonial American laws that questioned or denied Parliament's supreme legislative authority null and void for all purposes whatsoever. This Act of Parliament in 1766 abolished all hereditary slave codes and Negro laws throughout the 13 colonies because they infringed upon Parliament's sole legislative authority to enact a positive law required to legalize slavery in the kingdom, and as well were violations of Parliament's English Bill of Rights of 1689. Further, in the 1772 Somerset decision, England's Court of the King's Bench ruled that slavery was not permitted in the kingdom by English law and could only be a lawful condition if authorized by positive law, a power only which Parliament possessed and a power it never exercised. Thus, under English law, Virginia's hereditary slave codes and all similar colonial legislation were adjudged void ab initio. The Virginia Assembly acted beyond its authority, rendering its laws invalid from the outset. Governor Berkeley's failure to veto these laws only highlighted the corruption and overreach of Virginia's colonial officials. Please share and visit our website at Wells Center on American Exceptionalism and look for future videos.